Can you introduce yourself? Would you mind do that?
Yeah, I like your t-shirt. I'm Aaron Dessner from Big Red Machine and the National and various things.
Thanks. I love Big Red Machine. I was at the very first show. It was
Oh,
awesome.
thanks. Oh,
Um,
oh, wow. Amazing. Thank you.
and just Eau Claire means a lot to us in Wisconsin. So thank you for being such a
Thanks.
participant in it. Um, Surely people ask you to collaborate all of the time, be it for for the national or for whatever. Um, why did you choose to collaborate with Justin Vernon on Big Red Machine?
Um, I mean, to be honest, it just is kind of, I feel like the whole nature of the project has just sort of grown out of, at first it was like serendipity when we met over MySpace when I was making Dark Was the Night in 2008. I sent him a note asking him if he would contribute and to the record, and it was a big, expansive charity record we were making at the time. It was the first time I'd ever done anything like that, and Justin sent back Bracket Wisconsin, that song that he wrote back then, and it was so amazing and beautiful, and it was kind of like quite different than the first Bon Iver record. So I could feel like, oh, he's like, where's he going, and but it was so musical, and I think I just was trying my luck, and I sent him this piano sketch that I called Big Red Machine, just because of the Cincinnati Reds and having been born in that time in the mid 70s, and when the baseball team was referred to as the Big Red Machine, it was really just a joke. Why I called the sketch that, but he interpreted it as a heart, and like we wrote that song before we ever even met each other, and then when we met, we just kind of quickly became really good friends and collaborated on many things over the years before we resurrected Big Red Machine at Eau Claire. So it was really, I think it wasn't like I sat down and thought, oh, I want to start a project with Justin. It was more like naturally it just happened, and still now it's like, it's sort of a band, but it's sort of a project with the doors and the windows wide open to whoever wants to walk through the door, basically.
Yeah, I mean, how I think that's what I really like about the project. Like, what would you describe Big Red Machine as? What is the idea of it?
um, I would I would say it's it's some mixture of like a band and like some kind of laboratory where you can experiment and try things, and it's like sort of like about process as it is as much it's like as much about process as it is about whatever product or finished product comes out of it, because I think everything, there's a lot of spontaneity, and there is like some sort of feeling, like I feel like Justin and I both know when something is a Big Red Machine thing, or song, um but I think it has been a way to try to reconnect with the weird spark or joy that you feel when you're just starting to play music with your friends or when you're younger, and it's like deeply collaborative in that way. So I don't know, that doesn't really answer your question, but it's not a band,
No,
if that
because
makes
I
sense.
I think it's so funny that you say that because I was talking to Harlan about this project when we heard it and we were listening to it and we played the uh, the Fleet Foxes song and I was saying I feel like the Big Red Machine and like similar to Eau Claire, where it was like, here are people like doing that thing that they love to do, which is make music with each other and hang out. And I can imagine that you being very successful with the band The National, with Justin being very successful with the band with Bon Iver, that kind of like the bigger that you get, the harder it is to kind of like have that in the natural way and to get back, like you get so
Mm-hmm.
bogged down in all of the baggage that comes with those projects that it felt and it feels to me like everyone getting back to that original, like, let's make music because that's the thing that we started doing this for.
Yeah, I think that's very well put. That's exactly what it's about. Because I mean, we're lucky to be anyone that gets to play music as their main, like it's a very hard um, thing to do or to be successful at because, it's just like you're touring and all that. You're constantly running on fumes and sort of, it sounds glamorous, but it's actually it can be pretty rough, especially for long periods of time in the beginning when you're just making your way and you kind of like really get overextended and sort of lose touch with your whatever home life you might have had, and you're just living this nomadic life. And it is amazing. It's amazing in many ways, and it's amazing to have that connection when you're performing and like connecting with your bandmates and with the audience. But there's a downside also, and there's a lot of wreckage, that maybe people don't necessarily see. But after 20 years, I've kind of seen it all in one way or another. And I think Big Red Machine is like kind of, that's partly why I don't know that there'll ever really be a proper tour or anything of this music. I think we will play it from time to time live, but I think we want to avoid the kind of like trappings of whatever the getting out there and promoting the music in the normal way. So,
Well, I
anyways, but I think it is really good.
I think that there
Go ahead.
must be a difficulty of being like where you're at and being open to collaboration in the way that y'all are open to collaboration, because when you open the doors a little bit, I could imagine it's like everybody wants something from you, you know? And like every person that you talk to, or musician, I could like, I know it on a very small scale, but like you like know it at like the biggest scale of like every single person you talk to, you're doing that calculation of like, what do they want from me? How do you manage saying no to people that want to collaborate? Because I would imagine that is just as many as there are that you end up collaborating with, probably more.
um yeah, no, I think it is. I think a lot of, anyone that, as you, when you're coming up as a musician, you, in a way, your focus is fairly narrow or something. You're just like literally trying to make a good song somehow or a good record somehow. And then at some point when you've been around for quite a long time, I mean, not that I'm that old, but like I guess I at this point, because I'm 45, so I've been doing this for a while, and there are a lot of people that are in, approach me or certainly approach Justin all the time, and it is hard to say no because you always want to like help people or you always want to be open minded. And I still know that like the sometimes the best thing that you ever have done or the most important beautiful song you ever write is going to be the one that you didn't see coming.
Mm-hmm.
And it might be something you did with like someone you just met, like, and that you've never heard of before or whatever. So I don't like to judge anyone or any opportunity just because I don't know, see what the point is. But I think you also can become a really, like I said, overextended or sort of like empty.
Overwhelmed. Yeah.
You can run out of ideas, and it's hard. Like I think Jess and I were actually just talking about this. Like it's important to kind of like burn the forest down sometimes and let it grow again, or like you can't be. I think if you're running on fumes or if you feel empty, you kind of like it's diminishing returns. But that's what happens to a lot of musicians or a lot of creative people. And I can't say it hasn't happened to me. It has. And certainly Justin feels that sometimes. But anyways, but yeah, I don't know. I think I also like I'm by nature I'm collaborative. So I'll like I have a really hard time saying no almost to anything because I'm like, sure. It's easier if it's like I get to just like play the guitar or like mess around on something. It's harder because I think I often am the person that like does the heavy lifting or like I'll sit there and I'll be there at the beginning and I'll make sure something gets finished, and that takes longer. So it's like I only have so much time. But anyways, but I'm very thankful for every opportunity,
Yeah.
literally. So
Because I could just imagine, getting. I just like know how in demand, just like Justin, just like being from Wisconsin, it's just like what he's like Wisconsin's son, and so it's like I know how much he
Mm.
like means to us, and everyone here wants him to like do everything, and I'm sure the same is with you, and I just like I would feel like a tendency to like close off and be like, I feel so bad that I can't say yes to all these people that I just like, I gotta say no. But I just so much respect to both of you for always like keeping that open and keeping that going. And sometimes you got to burn down the forest. It's like, I'm sure that you've got people that you worked with who are like, let's do that again. And you have to say, like, let's make way for new people instead. And that has to be
Mhm.
difficult. And
Yeah.
I like recognize how hard that is. But with new people coming in, like how did Taylor Swift get involved in the whole thing? I think like the spirit of collaboration for Eau Claire, it was like in my mind, it was like that whole thing kind of like is a microcosm of Big Red Machine, or Big Red Machine is like the recorded
Mhm.
version of Eau Claire. And it was like, it makes sense to like have Kevin Morby and Gordy and these like musicians that are signed to indie labels that we all know. Like that makes sense. Taylor Swift is a bit
Yeah.
different. How did she get involved?
I mean, to be honest, I think it's almost everyone on the record are people that I've worked with or Justin's worked with or people that we have dreamed about working with. But I think, Taylor, obviously, I mean, I met her several years ago, but we obviously started to really collaborate deeply and over the past year when, on Folklore and Evermore. And those records, because they were kind of coming at a time when I was we had done almost half of the Big Red Machine record, maybe more, and so my head was pretty deep into it, and I shared a lot of it with Taylor, and she's like, as much as like obviously she's a hugely successful known figure, she also is every bit as kind of inspiring and down to earth and like hardworking. And like if you didn't know all her history and you just met her and like started making songs, you'd think you met her, she could be just like someone you met at Eau Claire who's like played an inspiring set or something. Literally, it's like it was um very natural kind of like process, and totally uncompromising. Like with those records, I never felt any outside influence or any, it was nothing different. We just made stuff we loved, and she heard a lot of the Big Red Machine music and gave me a lot of amazing feedback, and I think she was found some of it inspiring, and so it just happened really naturally that once we finished Evermore, there was like some music that I was writing for Big Red Machine. I just sent it to her and she wrote Renegade, and she sang on Birch, and it was just very organic. Like honestly, feels just the same as Anais Mitchell or anyone else on the record, to be honest.
Could you give me an example of like uh, Taylor and how like a thing that she did or something that you were like together that gives kind of like the spirit of who she is?
Um, I mean, there's so many things I could say, but I think it's like, she always makes like anyone that's playing with her or working on any piece of music with her, she makes you feel appreciated in like a very, like she gives a lot of encouragement and she just shows a lot of appreciation in this kind of, you know very unaffected, like sincere way, and it really does create a vibe where like he makes it like helps you do your best work and also just feel like there's a purpose or there's like a, you know um but that's not a specific example, but I guess that's how was my experience, was, just she was, she there was a something that happened with the song Cardigan where she preferred the rough mix that we made of it, or an early mix, and she kind of said, why don't we, like, could we just use that? And I think, and then she sort of said, like, don't, there's no hierarchy in any music I've made or any idea, like you can, like, anything goes, whatever we feel is the best thing for these songs is the best thing. And that's very similar to what I would say, or anyone else, like Justin would say, and it was clear that we were fairly aligned in that sense. Like she was very tuned in to what we were trying to get, and she's just such a gifted writer. So anyways, but I could say a lot, like so many positive things about her.
Love that. As we wrap up here, I would love to come out of this interview by playing a song from anybody or anything, just something that you've been listening to a lot recently, something that has like been stuck in your head or you can't stop listening to. What would be a song that you have been listening to a lot recently?
I mean, it's kind of dark, it'll seem like I'm darker than I am, but the Towns Van Zandt song, Waiting Around to Die. I don't know why, but for some reason I've listened to it a lot lately. But
Have
I
you
think it's
watched that
so
video?
moving. For that song, no.
Oh
Is there a
my
crazy video?
God. There's a video where he's playing it and it's like of the like this documentary and there is like an old man who is like an old
Oh wow.
cowboy, like they're playing and he's playing that song and you just see like this old grizzled, like literally like dust on his skin cowboy like
Wow.
shed a solitary tear as Towns is playing
Wow.
that song. It is like one of the most moving videos I've ever seen of a song.
Wow. I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna look it up like right after this call.
For sure.
That's
I
amazing.
I love that, and
Yeah.
I love Towns too. I mean, he just like has
Mm.
something that no one else does.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, Aaron, thank you for this conversation, and thanks
Cool.
for Big Red Machine. I love the idea of the whole project, and so often it's like collaboration can be a difficult thing, or it can feel like transactional. But Big Red Machine has always totally just felt so genuine. I think that comes across in the music. So
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys and all the support over the years. So thank you.
oh, right on, always. Uh, have a good
Yeah.
one, and
You too.
I hope you watch that video because it is
I'll check it.
the
I will.
best.
I'm
All
gonna do
right,
it.
all right.
Awesome.
See you, man.
Cool. Take care, everybody. See you.